Hello, and welcome to the Mama Making Podcast, where we share stories of moms making impact in their own lives and in the world around them. I'm Jessica, and each week I sit down with women who are building businesses, leading communities, shaping culture, and redefining what success looks like inside of motherhood. Because motherhood does not have to stop your ambition, it can transform it. Now let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Mama Making Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica. If you're new, welcome. If you're not new, then welcome back. Today, I am doing just a quick little solo episode. I committed to getting my butt back on screen solo and talking more about building a business and the behind the scenes of my life and podcasting and all of the things. So I'm excited to talk today about my business ownership journey and kind of do a deep dive on where I started and where I am at. So with that, I would like to start with the fact that I had never planned to start a business. I always had kind of an entrepreneurial spirit and knew I wanted to do something for myself, but never knew what that looked like and didn't really have a roadmap, as most of us don't, to figuring out what it was that I wanted to do. So I'll go back just a little bit. I know I've talked about it on the podcast a few times, but previously I worked in nonprofit fundraising and loved every second of it. It was high-paced, fast environment, constantly moving. We were doing events and networking and constantly meeting new people and talking and chatting, and I loved being able to connect with people who had a common goal of doing good in our world. And I loved every second of it until COVID hit and really changed things for the world of nonprofit. And I, along with COVID, was in a life space where I was engaged, going to be married, planning for our family, what our life looked like. And I just knew in my heart of hearts that I would not be able to sustain this really high energy career that I had built and be able to be all in on raising a family. So I made the decision to switch careers and I moved to project management, which is very similar to nonprofit and small business, where you are quite literally doing everything. So project management was a natural segue for me to be able to see a project through start to finish, manage people here and there, help them get to where they need to go with their objectives or whatever they were focused on. And so I got a job as a project manager at a large health system and worked for a business development team that focused on behavioral health. So I learned so much through that opportunity. But because of that, I was able to start the podcast. I had a little extra time on my hands and was able to start the podcast, have this passion project, and I loved it. It was a great balance. And going from a really high stress job to now a more corporate job where I truly was like clocking in and clocking out, getting my work done, still feeling fulfilled by the work that I was doing. But once that clock hit 5, I was able to close my laptop, turn off my notifications, and just do what I wanted to do and focus on my life. And that was really what I needed. I needed that decompression and moving somewhere that helped me to be able to really silo my life because it was very commingled. It really served me during that time frame. I got married, I got pregnant, I had a baby, we bought our first house. And had I not had a job where I was able to get in, do my work, get out at the end of the day and focus on all of the incredible things I was building in my life, was so meaningful to me. And to be able to build the podcast, have my family, also make a living doing something that I loved doing was so incredible. But as I got towards the end of that job or career, I was feeling like I needed something else. Motherhood had really broken me open and changed me in many, many ways. And a lot of times I would be at work and be like, what am I doing here? Send my baby away to my mom or my mother-in-law or whoever was watching him that day. And I'm doing like emails. This is what I'm doing to take time away from my child. And I really started to feel that need to do something that made me feel like taking time away from my family was worth it, or taking time away from being with my child was worth it. And I was at a really weird crossroads, and that I felt this need to do more, but I also had this very steady income. It was the biggest paycheck I had received to date, and I held the insurance for our family. It was stable and flexible, and I had a really incredible team. And so what happens next was very unexpected, but almost like it was kind of the universe working in a weird way. And that I was having these feelings, starting to think like, okay, maybe there's something else for me. And then I got laid off. Myself and my boss were a part of a few huge layoffs throughout the health system. And while I was having these feelings of like, I don't want to be here, I want to be doing more, it was still so jarring to me and pretty illuminating that when you're able to make the choice for yourself, it's a little bit different. But I would have never left that job if I hadn't gotten laid off. I loved my team. I loved the work that I was doing, but I would have never made the decision to quit that job, start my own business if I hadn't been quite literally pushed to. And it was my team at that point who was like, you need to start something on your own. You never would have left. And to this day, we still meet up monthly for drinks and talk about we're all in different places now and talk about what's happening. And I'm so grateful for that group of women who have kind of stewarded me through that like identity crisis of changing my career and really deciding what was next. So that was kind of the first instance of maybe this was kind of meant to be. And I was lucky enough to have a severance package where I was really able to kind of sit in it and decide what was next. And I would not have been able to move forward if it wasn't for the support of my incredible husband. We hustled for a really long time for most of our relationship, and we're finally at a point where I had the ability to choose what was next, and whether that was finding a new job in an area that I was interested in, whether it was staying home and being a stay-at-home mom or something in between. I had the luxury, because my husband and I worked so hard in the beginning half of our life, to be able to make that decision. And it was a really hard one to decide what was next. I took a couple of weeks where I'm like, all right, stay-at-home mom life is here for me, finally, what I've always wanted, and quickly learned it is not for me. It is so hard, and we should be getting paid to be stay-at-home moms. It is a job, and it wasn't for me. And so I was like, okay, what's next here? And again, through the encouragement of my husband and my coworkers, I was doing some freelance work here and there, helping people with projects, and really felt encouraged to lean into that. And so that's kind of where it all began. I just had the idea of, while I figure out what's next, let me let my current people know I'm free and available to work on projects and do some freelance digital marketing, social media, print work, all the above, to support them and support myself during this time while I figured out what was next. So that's where I feel like it has all kind of just happened to me. I decided to formalize things a little bit by doing an LLC. And to me, that was like, no big deal. Everybody does this, just to protect myself and make it a little bit more formal. So with that, I really just set out to make the clients I was working with a little bit more regular, reach out to some smaller business owners and see what support they needed. I started Collabs Creative as the founder and worked with my really good friend, Maria, who worked with me at a prior nonprofit, but we continued to work on freelance projects together for the 5 years between the time that we worked together and now. And she was instrumental in creating Collabs Creative. And we really focused in on small business owners because we understood it. We worked in nonprofit, we worked with a ton of small business owners and kind of just got it. And it felt natural to us to focus there. So, honing in on that focus, coming up with our name, focusing on the services we were going to provide was definitely a team effort. And without her, I don't know what I would have done or would do now. But with that said, the plan was to just take on a couple regular clients, keep it manageable, simple, and see what happens. And it felt so weird to say I was a business owner or started my own business because it didn't really feel that way since that wasn't my intention. I just wanted to make a little money, bring some money in until I figured out what I was going to do next. And that's when doors just started flying open. I filed for my LLC, got approved, and literally the month later contracted with my biggest client to date. And that's where things kind of set off. It has been like a build it and they will come kind of mentality for me. And that I brought on this client and I was like, okay, maybe I really can do this. And that's where everything kind of took a turn. And I was able to walk through these opportunities that came up really unexpectedly or like just word of mouth, or I'd been talking to someone about a project they were working on or someone they knew in the community. And I specifically remember the feeling of like, oh, this is really something. Like, let me lean into this a touch more and see what happens. And that's when it really started flowing. And I really started to go from this freelance mindset to a business owner mindset, and that I was kind of flying by the seat of my pants and letting it land how it was going to land. And it wasn't until I started contracting more clients and getting more people reaching out to me for services that I realized I needed to put myself into this. And I started to formalize processes and kind of utilize that scrappy, like ADHD mentality that I have of figuring it out as I go. And so, as problems would arise or as things would occur, I was in real time and still am figuring out the processes that I need for my day to day business. And it wasn't till very recently, frankly, that I realized I'm outgrowing what I originally intended to do, which was let me do some freelance on the side. Okay, let me lean into this a little bit more, make it more official. And then I began to think, okay, let me get some systems and processes together as I figure out what I want this all to look like. And it has been all of these like small shifts and changes that I didn't necessarily set out to do that were just coming to me. And it was like the rolling with it and building a system or process around things as they would arise, like onboarding clients and billing practices and all of these things that have really never been at the forefront of my mind that were now in my face, glaring and obvious that I needed to figure something out. And I either needed to go all in on this or I needed to go back to my original intention of meeting my clients with what they needed and figuring out what was next. And so I have quite literally in real time figured out that I am in a entrepreneurial growth phase, and that is frankly scary to me. I have never been a small business owner. My husband owns a business, but it's different being the partner to a business owner than it is being boots on the ground every day figuring it out. And what I all of this to say, what I think is important to share about a business journey or an entrepreneurial journey is the hard stuff. I think we see so many people on social media talking about how they hit six-figure salaries in this amount of time, and this is how many clients they're booking each month. And while all of that work is so incredible, and I am cheering for those moms and women who are doing the thing, it's not where everyone sees things, and it's not where everyone's goals are or where they set out. And I think that that can be challenging to try to figure out, like, who am I in this space? What am I doing? And that is very much where I'm at right now. I had a really incredible therapy session this week that kind of helped me think about these things and really navigate my thoughts and feelings about where I am at. And that I'm truly going from this like fun little side business to full on entrepreneurship. And that comes with a lot of overwhelm, especially when it's not something you set out to do. I wasn't in this growth mindset of this is what's coming next for me, and have allowed everything to just kind of happen to me, and which has served me well thus far. But I'm in a growth phase, and saying that seems crazy to me, but I'm in a position where I am constantly feeling like I'm failing. I feel like I'm doing nothing well in any area, and am quite literally beating myself up at every turn. And it's hard to be building something and feeling like you're failing at it, and you're failing at the building, you're failing at momming, you're failing at being an independent person. Like, it feels quite literally like I'm failing in every area. And it wasn't until my therapist this week said that I needed to reframe the way that I'm looking at things, and not just like I have this onslaught of tasks, but that I am doing three very involved and very important things. And that is being a mom and raising a family, that is building a business in a growing phase with no prior experience, no blueprint, no roadmap, and then pouring my heart and soul into this podcast. And most people only do a handful of those things. And so for me to hear that from someone else was almost like the validation I needed to be like, I am a working mom. I am a business owner. I am a podcaster. Like, I am all of these things, and I identify with them. That has been a challenge for me because I feel like I've just been cosplaying these roles because, for whatever reason, think that I just got plopped into them. And it wasn't until this week that I had this like meltdown about, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Should I be doing this? That hearing those validations that like the things that I'm doing are big, and the things that I'm working on in this growth phase are big. And I do deep down feel like I am right on the edge or right on the precipice of, like, I visualize it as a roller coaster. I'm coming up on that edge and I'm just about to go over. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what it means for me or the podcast or my business or my family. But I know that there's more and bigger things coming, which is also a whole other set of overwhelm. Like, what's next? What do I do? Can someone throw me a roadmap? But I think it's so necessary to be honest about these like tension spaces or growth phases where you're quite literally doing everything yourself. I have reached a point where I have hired a VA, which has been immensely helpful. I have hired another member of my team to help me with one specific client, which is nuts. I've been able to pay my collaborator, Maria, more money monthly to help with building the business. And I am now hiring an intern. And all of those things are things that I'm just doing to get by and survive day to day. But then when I sit down and look, I'm like, wow, I went from literally like a year and a half ago, just doing freelance side projects and feeling like I needed to make it more formal, to now managing people. And it's it's crazy to think about, but also like so inspiring to see that when you step into something that feels like right and natural to you, that all of this other stuff will come. And that's kind of where I pushed myself to focus this year, on alignment and authenticity and just simply going with my gut. And my gut has always served me so well. And in the times that I didn't trust it, everything showed for that. And so I think stepping more into that and eliminating that imposter syndrome and stepping into this identity shift of being a business owner, of being a podcaster, of having a voice for moms who are in this with me, has been this like push and pull of tension, because it's hard, and gratitude for this isn't really exactly what I signed up for, but I'm so grateful that I'm here. So it's this weird push and pull that I think we don't know until we're in it, of being so grateful and loving the opportunity that I have, with also feeling like I'm doing nothing right. My task list is a million miles long, but also just knowing that like all things end, all things shift, all things move. This is a temporary growth phase. And putting that mantra into my head, I think, is going to be helpful. So I hope it's helpful for someone else in this early phase of building a business, that it's a growth phase and things move and transition and change, and we are capable of making those transitions and changes because we've done it before, and as moms we're continually doing it. I keep thinking that like I keep comparing this growth phase to that first year of motherhood, where it's like you finally feel like, yes, we've got this. We're sleeping well, we're eating well, we know each other, it's going well. And then the next week, everything blows up. You're hitting a new milestone, you've got new sleep regressions, everything is going haywire. And I feel like you're in such survival mode in that first year, like learning who you are, learning this baby, figuring out the schedules, like all of this stuff compressed in this one year. And I'm very much aligning that to this growth phase, and that I feel like I'm just getting through, which is not how I want to be operating. And coming to the realization that that is sometimes necessary to get to that next phase of things, where I'm able to hire staff and more of a team to be able to help me move through this in a way that's more sustainable. Making those two parallels to each other has been so helpful for me to be like, okay, I'm going to get through this. This is really freaking hard, and some days I feel like I get up and go to sleep and all I've done is work. And I know that that's temporary. I know that that ends because I've done it already. I've done it as a mom. I've done it as a human, as a woman, as whatever. And I've seen it be done because I've done it myself. So I'm hopeful that that is inspiring or helpful to someone else in this space, that I think no matter where you are in your business ownership, things are always changing. And I think that we're all still just figuring it out, like where we are right now, where we're going. We've hit this unexpected growth or this unexpected recession, and allowing our intuition and our gut and choosing alignment and authenticity and moving forward to receiving what's next for us. I think, without sounding like so ethereal or like high in the sky, I think that by trusting ourselves and putting our head down, doing what we need to do to figure that out and allow it to come to us, is really all you can do. I have yet to find someone who's like, I have the key to doing what's next for you or what's right for you. Because I think it's different for everybody. Everyone's life circumstances, everyone's business, industry, ideal client or ideal podcast listener is all so different. And I think that while we can pick and pull things from people that we see online or podcasters we listen to, you are truly in your own unique journey and trail and experience. And I think the only way we can get through that is going with our gut. And I'm trying to lead by example on that one and doing it myself. So, with all that said, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have this podcast and listenership and really incredible group of women podcasters that I connect with and guests to kind of help inspire me to really go after what is available to me, even if I don't really know what that is yet. And I'm just grateful to sit here today and be able to speak to you and share the behind the scenes of life and what's happening and really go through this business owner journey with you and to show you that you're not doing it all yourself. Other moms and women and creators are in the same boat as you, right in the beginning, hustling, growing, and you're not alone. And we're all doing this together. And in some days you have that emotional meltdown of what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? I think we all are there at a point, and I think using that to help switch that narrative and grow and change can be life-changing. And I hope that it is for me. And I'm so excited to continue to take you all on this journey with me of figuring out who I am as a business owner and share more on the podcast and connect with other moms and women and business owners and community members and advocates in this next upcoming podcast season, where we will be focusing on women making impact. And I'm being very intentional about that impact being huge, national, global, or local, community, within your family, within your friend group, your community, because our impact as women is powerful and community changing and shifting. And I cannot wait to continue to highlight women doing this. And so I'm so excited for this next season of the podcast and of life. So with that, thank you for listening to my solo ramblings, and I would love to invite you to follow the podcast wherever you listen, subscribe on YouTube, join our newsletter mailing list on our website, as we are in the works with seeing what's coming up next with that. Follow our guests who are on the podcast so they know we love what they're doing. And thank you for being here. And I'll talk to you next time.
If this conversation resonated with you, I'd love for you to follow the podcast wherever you listen and share it with another mom building something meaningful. If you want deeper behind the scenes reflections that I don't share anywhere else, join my email list at themamamakingpodcast.com. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next time.